about or much really left to discuss.
Well, Mike White's not a newbie. I mean, he's been around the league for a while, started with the Dallas Cowboys. So, I mean, this is a guy who certainly knows the league, and nice to see him step in with the opportunity that he's been given. Plenty of connections between the Dolphins and the 49ers as they get set to meet at Levi Stadium, not the least of which, of course, is the Dolphins head coach and former offensive coordinator for the Niners, Mike McDaniel. There's also Jeffrey Wilson. There's Trey Lance, which was involved in a trade for draft picks. A good offense versus the league's best defense. Danny, in terms of this particular matchup, I mean, are you salivating a little bit here?
Yeah, this is probably the top of the games that you want to watch this weekend. It feels like must-see television, and we've seen Tua, when he's healthy, look unstoppable with the weapons that he's got. And then you're going to go against the San Francisco 49ers, which showcases the physicality, and it looks to be one of the toughest challenges yet. I would also say, look at the 49ers offense. You think Kyle Shanahan's just going to be happy to go down without a fight and put up some offensive numbers of his own? I think this game will live up to the billing. I think it'll come down to the wire. And I think I was gonna say the Dolphins win, but that's my homer coming out of me. But I do think this offense is going to provide some problems because Tua is making such quick decisions. It really does neutralize your ability to pressure the quarterback. I mean, he knows where to go with the football. And to Mike McDaniel's credit, he creates a system where there's always a spot to go quickly.
It's going to be fascinating to see how these two staffs go about scheming each other up. Like the game within the game is what's going to be interesting because, as we know, when you prepare for a game on your game plan, you've got your first 15. And so you're going to break down really your first 15 plays. You're going to rehearse them, practice them, and you're going to have different personnel groupings. You're going to have different formations, motion shifts, all basically that's intel. You're going to try to gather that back to see how the opponent's going to play you. But then once that happens, you and I both know they're going to be making changes in the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, the entire thing because they know each other so well. So that's going to be one of the biggest keys, just the adjustments that the staffs make and kind of who's able to adapt more on the fly. Injuries, too, are going to play a huge one in this one. Toronto Armstead went down, left tackle for the Dolphins. Not having him, this offensive line looks drastically different. Tua is going to have to be throwing the football on his back versus this pass rush and a guy like Nick Bosa. So I give the early edge to the 49ers until you know what the offensive line is going to look like. And keep an eye on Jimmy G, too. He kind of banged up his knee a little bit last week. Yep. Could be a bit hobbled. But San Francisco is one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest right now in the NFL. And I think they match up well with the Miami Dolphins.
Second half defense has been unbelievable. 3.5-point favorites early as we get towards Week 13. Lastly, Joe Burrow can become the first quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes 3 straight times when the Bengals host the Chiefs on Sunday. Chiefs 3-point road favorites. The expectation for this game is that Jamar Chase makes his return. He has torched the Chiefs, Danny. Are you expecting the same type of thing to happen again?
Absolutely. I mean, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have such a good feel for each other, such a good rapport, that I would expect there not to be much drop-off. And, you know, Zach Taylor, the head coach for the Bengals, talked to him a few weeks ago after their bye week, and he actually pointed out they were the exact same record last year going into their bye week, and then they parlayed that into a Super Bowl run. And sure enough, since their bye week, they've won a couple games. They're starting to get back healthy. They get back one of their biggest weapons. And yet, Patrick Mahomes, the heavy favorite for the MVP, is not going to go down with a fight. So I think this weekend looks awesome for the NFL as far as matchups, where you're going to get to really get some key storylines on the back end of the season. Who are the pretenders? Who are the contenders? But I think both these quarterbacks, the one thing we can count on for sure is they're going to deliver.
You know, it's funny. We're talking about both the quarterbacks. Both these defenses are, to me, going to be the storyline of this game. That and injuries again. I mean, early in the week, that's always going to be something you look at. You know, hopefully Chase is back. You'd love to see him part of this sort of matchup. But Joe Mixon missed last week, too. Whether or not he comes back for the Bengals, that would be a huge get to add to that backfield. And really the passing attack because of the way he catches. But the Bengals defense this past week, the way they kind of shut down Derrick Henry to a degree, at least in the rushing game. That to me is going to be a big key in this one. They've really come along. So just trying to put as much pressure on Patrick Mahomes as you can. That's part of it. But this is going to be fireworks. I mean, I'm looking at the over-under at 51.5. I'm like,
at least 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in each. That is the Thursday night game. Colts at the Cowboys. Cowboys, big-time favorites. They're 9.5-point early favorites. The Colts, of course, going to play Week 12 tonight. That's the Sunday night game. And then the Monday night game, an NFC South game between the Saints and the Buccaneers. Bucs currently favored by 3.5. All right, let's get into our Week 13 look ahead with Brady Quinn and Danny Cannell. We'll start with the Bills, 5.5-point favorites versus the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. Stephon Diggs said that he told Josh Allen, look, let's get back to just having fun again. I'm not sure how fun that nervy win over Detroit was, but Brady, do you get the sense that the Bills are over their hiccup and they've sorted things out, or do you still think there's more drama to come?
I don't know. I think there might be some more drama to come when you look at this offense and how it operates. It just seems like it always takes this heroic performance from Josh Allen in order for them to be able to win games right now, which is surprising because, we didn't see that. At least I didn't see that coming into the season. I thought they were more of a well-rounded offense, but they do seem very Josh Allen come save the day heavy. This matchup's interesting to me only because, you're talking about Stephon Diggs and the comments he's making. You know how Bill Belichick plays this. He's going to try to eliminate Stephon Diggs. He's going to make someone else besides Diggs beat them, whether it's Gabe Davis or whoever else within the offense beat them. That's always his MO of how he tries to, work these matchups. So it will be curious to see if New England can accomplish that, and then whether or not the Bills can stop the rushing attack of the New England Patriots. They don't want this to be a shootout. They don't want it to be Mac Jones trying to go up and down the field versus Josh Allen. They're going to have some balance. They're going to want to shorten the game. You're going to see a heavy dose of Ramondre Stevenson. And in particular, going up, too, against the defense that they like to rush. They like to get after on the outside. They're built to basically pass rush and cover on the back end. They will test the toughness of this Bills defense. And we've seen it from time to time where sometimes they don't even try to throw the football in this matchup.
What's interesting here is the Bills are finding out it's more fun to be the hunter than the hunted, because they've always been the hunter trying to get after the Chiefs. Now this season they came in with a bullseye on their back, and they're finding out, the expectation is we're supposed to dominate. They were the Super Bowl favorite coming in. Josh Allen was the MVP favorite. Then all of a sudden you look up, Patrick Mahomes, the heavy favorite for MVP now. You got Tua and Jalen Hurts have leapfrogged over Josh Allen to where he sits fourth now. And it's justified because he has struggled with the turnover bug, and it's put a ton of pressure on this offense that you've seen look actually human and not unstoppable. And even more so, now you start to see Josh Allen when he does have to take over and play hero ball, and they need him to bail him out like they did on that last play against Detroit to get him in field goal position. He had to do it with his legs, and he's taking more shots, and it's starting to take its toll. So I think this game is going to be fascinating to see. Do the Bills, can they beat a quality opponent? Can they do it against the Patriots? Can they, and a division opponent too? Mm-hmm. And can they get back on track as this trendy favorite, to win it all this year?
You like the points?
Yeah, I probably would. I would say take the Patriots at home.
I was just going to say, it's tough to bet against Bill Belichick and the division Patriots at home. And I think the Bills will win this game, or because of Josh Allen. But at the end of the day, 5.5 is kind of a lot to be given Bill Belichick and the Patriots.
Let's get a James Cook game in there for Buffalo. I want to see him get going against Ramondre Stevenson. Next up, the new look Jets under Mike White, former Western Kentucky star, 3-point underdogs to Minnesota. They're going to Minnesota to take on the 9-2 Vikings. Justin Jefferson trails Tyreek Hill by 1 yard in terms of being the top receiver in the NFL. This week he faces Sauce Gardner, who has stopped Hill. He has stopped Diggs. He has stopped Chase. This is going to be a great
I know it's the Bears. They don't have much of a pass rush. Their entire secondary was banged up. When you look at Brisker wasn't playing, and Eddie Jackson got hurt in that one too. So clearly that played a factor into some of that success. But give him his props, give him his due. I felt like the entire team rallied around Mike White in particular afterwards. And look, I was critical of this decision because I said you got to see what you have in Zach Wilson. By the end of the season, you have to have clarity with that. Maybe it's already as clear as it needs to be with the way Mike White at least performed last week. Maybe he should be the guy the rest of the way if they want to have a chance of going to the playoffs.
To piggyback on your point, what was to me was more glaring and more of a sign of what's going on with the quarterback position. It wasn't a stat line. It wasn't the 3 touchdown passes. It was the reaction from the teammates, the excitement for them to go over and celebrate with Mike White very purposefully. And it looked like they were saying, this is our guy. This is who we will rally around. I thought was more of an indictment on Zach Wilson than anything. Now, this game I think is important, maybe more so important for the team on the other side, the Vikings, who, people were starting to say, oh, this team's fraudulent. They're the worst, team that's had this, what are they, with their record
9-2.
with a, 2-point differential. it's the worst in the history of the NFL. They look fraudulent. So I think this game might be more important for the Vikings and Kirk Cousins and company to get back on track and actually win a game that they control from start to finish, or else people are going to start questioning their validity as an NFC contender as well.
A lot of plays being made versus that Vikings, that shell coverage. They've been going to have a lot of yards. They've been good when they've gotten down to the red zone, and that's where Mike White's going to be tested. That's where this game is going to be decided, is if Mike White and the Jets can take care of the football in the red zone and punch that ball in. That's kind of how the Vikings defense has been designed so far.
Danny, to your point about how the team kind of rallied around White, what does that tell you about things that we haven't seen with the Jets? I mean, with Zach Wilson, we've seen on the field, but does that tell you that maybe there's something there in terms of maybe practice and stuff that's going on off the field, that White is more of the leader?
Without question. I mean, I think that's why it was, Robert, you don't bench your number 2 overall pick in his second year just off of a couple bad games. And actually with a winning record, it's even more glaring. I thought, to me, the reason Robert Saleh made the move was, yes, he failed the press conference when he was asked, did you let the defense down? He just flippantly said no. But it's been a collection of issues. And you've seen his own teammates attack the offense and say, hey, we got issues out there. So to your question, Jeremy, I think it is way more about the intangibles than it is. We know that Zach Wilson is capable of making throws and he's incredibly athletic. But to me, the intangibles are sometimes the hardest thing to judge in a quarterback. And up to this point, Zach Wilson has failed in that area.
You have to remember, all right, Joe Flacco at one point was the backup. He's the one that went and played earlier this season when Zach Wilson got hurt and played well. Obviously got them a comeback win versus Cleveland. But, if you look at this and how this probably all came about, Mike White's been running a scout team. And he's probably been playing well enough to the point where when they, the leaders on defense walked into Robert Saleh's office, and after what they heard him say after that game, said, come on, man, like we've watched this in practice now, give this guy a shot. That's how I felt watching it. And now, Zach Wilson's in the position where he's running the scout team. And so he's got an opportunity to earn back some of that equity back with his teammates, but